Happy 2 million downloads everyone, Sobro Neo G&A Reviews here with a servant spotlight for the badass berserker Beowulf. We'll be examining his stats and skills as well as going over pointers on how to utilize him effectively and an overall grade comparing him to how he stacks up to the other 4-star servants. I also have a spotlight up for the other 2 new servants, Fionn and Brynhilda, linked in the description below, so please do check those out right after this. Now on to Beowulf's stats. Beowulf has a max HP of 10,327, which is very low for a 4-star berserker and near the bottom of all 4 stars in general. However, his 10,247 attack is above average for a 4-star berserker and very high among all 4 stars. Taking a look at his skills, his first skill is Berserk Rank A, which increases his attack for 1 turn between 20 and 30%, and increases his Noble Phantasm strength for 1 turn between 10 to 20%. His second skill is Intuition Rank B, which grants him between 4 to 14 crit stars depending on level. And finally, his last skill is Battle Continuation Rank B, which applies Guts 1 time for 5 turns, reviving him with between 750 to 2000 HP depending on level. Taking a look at his passives, his only passive is Madness Enhancement Rank E-, which increases Buster Card effectiveness by 1%. As for his deck and Noble Phantasm, Beowulf has a Buster Berserker deck with Quick Arts, Buster, and a Buster Noble Phantasm. His Noble Phantasm is Grendel Buster, which deals significant damage to a single enemy that ignores evade, with a damage modifier between 600 to 1000% depending on level, and it also decreases critical hit rate of an enemy for 3 turns, between 30 to 50% depending on overcharge. This is upgraded through an interlude which will increase the damage modifier to between 700 to 1100% depending on level. Taking a closer look at his cards, we see that his quick card hits 3 times, his arch card hits 3 times, his buster hits once, and his extra attack hits 4 times. His Noble Phantasm gain rate is 0.68%, and his star rate is 4.9%. This translates into pretty bad Noble Phantasm gain just due to having 1 arch card and a poor Noble Phantasm gain rate, but he does have decent star gen for a berserker due to the 3-hit quick cards, and for reference that's slightly lower Noble Phantasm gain than Herc and Lu Bu, but slightly more star gen. Beowulf is as straightforward a berserker as you can get. There's no real gimmicks or tricks with him. He's just a straight up damage dealing brawler that hits really hard. His full on Buster Berserker deck has a lot to do with that, since you'll be able to bust a Brave Chain for days, and he does have high attack. And on top of that, he has access to a really strong buff in Berserk. This is another split buff similar to Mana Burst Flame, except it increases overall attack instead of Buster Card effectiveness, which is good for the rare cases where you don't have a Buster Brave Chain, and this will put a serious sting in your Noble Phantasm. It is a shame that it only lasts a single turn though, which we'll come back to later. Battle Continuation is another really welcome skill, and it's absolutely necessary on the Berserker, and at least offers him some level of survival. However, while the attack buff and guts are standard fare for Berserkers, his last skill is the most random thing, Intuition. This is just as useless on him as it is on anyone else, and it's really a waste of a skill. You'll never use this, so when it comes to skill priority, level Berserk first, followed by Battle Continuation, and then Intuition, or just skip Intuition altogether. And Beowulf's Noble Phantasm is just as straightforward as he is. It's just a single target buster attack that ignores evade and hits for a ton of damage. There's not much more to it other than pointing out that post-interlude, the Noble Phantasm damage modifier is even higher than Herc's. But at the risk of praising Beowulf too much and giving you all a gross misconception, let me clarify by explaining why he isn't a good 4-star berserker. Firstly, while he does have 2 good skills in Berserk and Battle Continuation, he has a useless skill in Intuition, and his passive Madness Enhancement is so bad it might as well not even be there. For reference, Herc's Madness Enhancement is 10%, it's 10 times as strong. And while Berserk is good, it's not great. To really separate yourself among the beat stick berserkers, you need to have a great attack buff. For example, Herc's Valor is a weaker overall buff, but it lasts for 3 turns, meaning it has a lot more mileage. And even Lu Bu has multiple attack buffs. And if it sounds unfair that I keep comparing him to Herc, it isn't. It's clear from his skill set in Noble Phantasm that he is meant to be in the same category of berserker as Herc and Lu Bu. He isn't a crit berserker like Lancelot or an AoE farming berserker like Fran or Tamamo Cat, and from that context, he's very weak. Herc is light years ahead of him in every single way. Survival, damage, better skills, a better Bondcraft essence, higher attack, just better at everything. And because Beowulf has no other dimension to him, he's really just an objectively worse, watered down version of Herc. There really isn't a reason to use Beowulf if you have Herc, and even when compared to top tier 3-star berserkers like Lu Bu, it's a close matchup with Lu Bu maybe even having the edge, assuming he has Noble Phantasm 5 and its post-strengthening quest. Since Beowulf is a watered down Herc, or maybe a spicier Darius if you want to put a positive spin on it, he appreciates all the same supports and team comps that they do. First and foremost, you'll need a tank or a healer to babysit him, since he's a glass cannon. Your best bets for this are John, Mosh, Medialily, Leonidas, George, Martha, or even Tamamo. Next, you'll want a good attack buffer to maximize his damage, so I recommend Waver, Shakespeare, or Caesar. And if you want the best of both worlds, David, Hans, and Nero Bride can all do a fantastic job of buffing him and keeping him alive. His Bondcraft Essence is Final Battle. It gives all allies a 20% damage boost against dragons. And while this is extremely flavorful, it's also very pointless. You'll never need to use this since it's way too specific, and you're better off just using a regular old Buster Buff Craft Essence instead. Speaking of which, stick him with Limited Zero and Kaleidoscope. Those are the best craft essences you can give him. Don't use Victor of the Moon because as a berserker, he'll almost never get crit stars, and his Noble Phantasm gain is horrendous. But if you feel like you can keep him alive long enough, Halloween Princess isn't a bad option either. If you're having issues keeping him alive, you can stick him with Nightless Rose, Necromancy, or Star of Arturia. Overall, is Beowulf a horrible servant? No, but he's not good either. His best use is just like most Buster Berserkers, to stay in the back line and then come out to sweep and finish off a weakened enemy by pulling out a Noble Phantasm that does a ton of damage. The problem is he offers nothing new to the formula and is just objectively worse at this role than every other 4-star Buster Berserker, and arguably maybe not even as good as a top tier 3-star like Lu Bu. His lack of a third skill in favor of intuition hurts him tremendously. If he had a mana burst or some kind of other buff instead, he would be a lot better. However, he isn't as bad as Theon, where he has absolutely no use and is outclassed by 2 stars. Beowulf is still very much worthy of being a 4-star. Even if he isn't hurt, he can still hit tremendously hard and do his job effectively. So for that, he earns a C. If you don't have Herc or a post-strengthening quest, Noble Phantasm 5 Lu Bu, then Beowulf is absolutely a viable alternative and will keep your berserker needs well met until you do get yourself a Herc or a Kentucky. And those are my thoughts on Beowulf. Not the best berserker, but not the worst. He's passable and can get the job done. Let me know what you all think in the comments below, and please do check out the other spotlights up today on Brynhilda and Theon, both linked in the description below. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please join us over on Discord and follow us on Twitter. With that, I'll see you all in the next spotlight. Soberoni out. Later.